All right. All right. So the Panvala Spring Orientation, a lot of people participated in this last round of Gitcoin grants and donated in Pan. There are about 35 people who made donations and over 100 projects that received tokens in Pan, and all of those are going to be matched at an average of about 11.9x. So we wanted to make sure that we took this opportunity to make sure that as many people as possible understand how they can use those tokens, what we're trying to do with Panvala, and how if they need to pay their bills, they can swap out those tokens for liquid currency. So to kick this scene off, I wanted to start with introductions. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you're interested in the Ethereum ecosystem. And yeah, so I'll start. My name is Niran Babalola. I live in Austin, Texas. I've been involved in the Ethereum ecosystem since about 2015 when I was a volunteer contributor to the Augur project. I joined Consensus, worked on Gnosis, did some security audits with Consensus Diligence, and then in mid-2018 founded Panvala. We launched Panvala on the mainnet in August of last year, and now Panvala is its own independent, self-sustaining thing that is trying to prove that this multiplier can actually work and fund its own operations over time. So that's me. Next, how about Peter? Peter Porbov.
Hey everyone. My name is Peter Porbov. I'm from Russia. I'm the founder of Upala Digital Identity. We are providing Sybil resistance to the apps, and we score our users in dollars. Right now, we are participating in Dragon Quest Hackathon and hope to deliver our first prototype or even an MVP. Thank you. So another Peter. I'm passing the mic. Yeah.
Me, right?
Yeah.
Hi. Thanks, Peter. Hi. I'm from the Metacartel. I work on various projects in the space, mostly DAOs, and yeah, happy to be here to learn about Panvala. No pun intended with the pan thing, but yeah, I'll pass it off to Griff.
Yeah, hey, I'm Griff with the Common Stack and Giveth, and a whole lot of projects that I love just got a bunch of Pan, and so I'm excited to learn about what they can do with it and really dive into Panvala a lot more because it's an amazing project. I'll pass it to Pazlar.
Hello everyone. I'm Pazlar, as Griff said. I'm from Bright ID, which provides account uniqueness to the applications and businesses. And we're currently working on UBI, providing some tools for the UBI systems and other applications. And we are funded by the Panvala partly. And I'm here to learn about Panvala and see what we can do together. And with that, I pass it to Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm from Spain, currently in Madrid in full lockdown mode. And I've been in Ethereum ecosystem for around 3 years, but mostly focused on the enterprise side, and especially here in Spain, a little bit on Alastria, on Quorum ecosystem. And I use the Panvala to find our friends from Dapnode that have also some Spanish friends working, and they're doing a great job. And I'll pass the mic to Patricio.
Hello everyone, I'm Patricio from Buenos Aires. I'm in the space since 2015. In early 19, I decided to put everything I learned on a dApp, and I started building POAP. And POAP is a proof of attendance protocol. It's a system for event organizers to issue non-fungible tokens to people that go to their events. We've been doing this for almost a year and a half, and it's been quite a success. Like most of the people really like what we are doing, it seems, and we hope we keep doing so. So any asset we get on our wallet, we get to put to work in POAP. And something we are going to reward the people that pledge on our Gitcoin grant is one of these things. So if you want one, next time you see me on an event, ask for one. If you don't think you will come to an event anytime soon, you can get it on the mail if you reach out to me. And I think that's it. And I pass this to Jordi Morris. Jordi?
Hello, everyone. I'm Jordi Morris. I'm basically here on the space since 2013. The day that I saw Ethereum, I thought everything was possible to be programmed. I'm from Barcelona and basically have plenty of ideas that I think it needs to put to work, and basically in this space, not only for Spain, but for the entire world. So in general, I'm very interested on all this funding. For example, the idea of Gitcoin and Panvala that is moving towards that direction. Let's see how we can fund all this space, because there's a lot of things to deploy, right? And infrastructure, I think, is number one, maybe, at least from my point. So I also, like Alex Viñas, I supported the DAppNode team. I'll pass it to who's left.
I'll go.
Go
I
ahead.
Done, yeah.
Okay.
My name is Eric. I work in the DAO space with DAOstack. I recently started working on a project initially through a Metacartel grant called Pepper4D, now called 1UP. And we got some funding for 1UP, which is a easy way to distribute reputation and points through Telegram bots. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. So spending some time working on that right now. I'll pass it to whoever hasn't gone. I'm not exactly sure. Nimi, maybe, or pass. Yeah. Whoever.
So I didn't introduce myself as well. My name's David. You can call me Dog if you like. That's the moniker I use. I've been in the space since 2016 as well. Not that deeply involved in Ethereum, but I've been dragged into it through a lot of friendships I've had over the years, and I'm mostly interested in education materials. So one of the projects that I launched together with a few other people is a game that is supposed to help people learn and understand and experience how a world that's based on token economic models and kind of new rules of how we handle value and money, to bring that live to everyone. And my general interests are anything that helps people become more independent of institutions that do not always have our best interests at heart. It's being more self-sufficient and more self-competent. That's kind of the general idea. And my interest in Pan is actually, being there at the beginning of a new funding ecosystem, and that's my main goal for the call today, to just learn how we can grow together, because I think that's the very idea. I pass it on to whoever.
Yeah, I'll jump in. You guys might not be able to see me very well. My name is Bass. I've been in the ecosystem for a few years. I worked with a company called Market Protocol. We were building trustless derivatives on the Ethereum blockchain. I am currently an organizer, a co-organizer with Niran in Austin of Austin Ethereum, and am excited particularly for the applications of DeFi on Ethereum going forward and what that may do for the world. And with that, I will pass it to, we got a few people that just joined. How about Scott?
Hi guys, I'm Scott, Scotchpreneur. I am excited about DeFi. I've been around the space for a couple of years, worked on Pool Together at ETH Denver a year or so ago, and also in the Austin Ethereum community, working on Drip Score and a couple other projects. Pass it to Paslar.
So, and anybody who hasn't gone yet, who still wants to go, feel free to grab them.
I think there's George that hasn't gone yet.
Yeah, George or Airman.
No pressure. Cool. So lot of people are here from a whole bunch of different projects, and we want to do anything that we can to support the work that you're doing. If there's anything that we can ever do, send a message to the Panvala HQ Twitter account, and we'll see how we can help you out. Let me share my screen again. All right. All right, so the agenda here, basically I wanted to go into how Panvala works because a lot of people are new to the system and give you an overview of what we're doing here. We'll talk a little bit about the Pan token and what that looks like. A lot of donations just got matched on Gitcoin, so I want to explain where those matching funds actually come from. People who have tokens can hold on to them or choose to exchange them, so I want to make sure people know how to exchange them. I'll talk a little bit about how we govern Panvala and decide what we spend on, what we match, etc. each quarter. I want to go into a little bit about how you could run your own matching pool for your community so you can choose what gets matched. And then I'll open it up to Q&A, and then we can chat with each other after that. So what we're trying to do with Panvala is generalize the economic model behind Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is subsidizing its own security by creating new Bitcoins, and it's done that very successfully over the past decade. We want to generalize those same economics to subsidize whatever we want. We think that that's not a model that's tied to blockchains. You could use it for literally anything, and that's what we're trying to do here. So a lot of people think of Bitcoin holders and Ether holders as just investors, but we see them as more than that. We see them as philanthropists. So the way when you hold on to Bitcoin or when you hold on to Ether, you hold it knowing that you're going to be diluted over time. Your share of the supply is going to shrink. You know that there's going to be 21 million Bitcoins and there's not 21 million yet. So there's going to be some new ones created that dilute your share of the network. And the reason that that's diluted is to fund the security of the network. Block rewards are issued every 10 minutes to make sure that miners can be funded and secure the network. But the security of a blockchain is a public good that we're funding together. It's something that we can share. When I use the security of the Bitcoin network, that doesn't make it any less secure for you. So we're all diluting ourselves to fund this good that we share. And that's really what philanthropists do. People don't think of holders as philanthropists because they've seen wild gains for people who've held Bitcoin or Ether over the years. But that's actually the breakthrough. That's the big new thing that's happened. Since Bitcoin was launched in 2009, people have been outlandishly rewarded for subsidizing public goods. It's just that it's this one particular public good that many people don't really see as one. So if we could generalize it beyond the security of a blockchain, we could show people how the same subsidy model that Bitcoin created can be used for literally anything we want. So if you look at Bitcoin as a subsidy system, you can compare what users are contributing to what's being subsidized. So in Q4 of 2019, the fees on the Bitcoin network were about 2,500 Bitcoins. And the block rewards during that same time were 150,000 Bitcoins. And that was basically dilution of the existing holders funding those block rewards. That 150,000 is 60 times the 2,500 in fees. So if you think about the normal world, when some rich person's saying, hey, I'm going to match your donations for every dollar that you put in, I'm going to match with $1, that's just 2x. But Bitcoin is matching at 60x right now, and it's been doing it for over a decade. This is really something incredible that we need to figure out how to generalize, because if it's possible to generalize it, I think that's an incredibly big deal. So that's what we're trying to do with Panvala. We're trying to take that model and apply it to anything we want. And if you use that same sort of lens on what we're doing here, we're matching at 11.2x currently for last quarter. So not 60x, but 11.2x over that same model. So for each token that came into the token supply as a donation, 11.2 tokens went out as grants. So we believe that, like Bitcoin, high levels of matching can be sustained for over a decade. And we also believe that Panvala's matching can be shared among as many communities as want to use it. Because if what's happening is that the donations are being matched at some sort of multiplier, then if my community is using Panvala and another community decides to use Panvala as well, that does not degrade Panvala for me. We can just give each community a share of the budget that's proportional to their share of donations, and it's just as good as if they made their own thing. We can be stronger together rather than operating our own independent systems. So that's really what we're trying to do here. If those things are true, I believe that we can create a decade-long window when any community in the world can have their contributions to public goods amplified at attractive rates. So the way that I think about it is, like, we saw all these mining firms pop up around the world trying to find the nooks and crannies with the cheapest electricity and the best mining chips to make sure that they can mine the most blocks and get the most rewards. And if Satoshi had decided to subsidize not the security of a network, but other public goods instead, then we'd also see tons of firms pop up around the world. But instead of trying to optimize their power usage and mine as many blocks as they can, they'd be trying to provide as many public goods as people want that we couldn't find a way to coordinate before, but now we can by matching people's donations at attractive rates. So that's what's possible here. That's what we're trying to do. We want to match as many contributions to public goods for as many communities as possible. So the way that the PAN token looks like is basically there's a maximum supply of 100 million PAN. The current circulating supply is 23 million PAN. So there's tokens that are locked up in a smart contract that releases them over time, and that's the quarterly budget that we use for our grants. So you can think about the supply curve as 3 different periods. The first period was before we launched on chain. So we started issuing grants even before the system was live. We started in February of last year. That was batch 1, and now we're on batch 6. So it's been a year and a half of issuing grants so far. So that was that first step of the supply curve. Once we launched in August of last year, that's when the second step began, and that's the vesting phase. So there's 27.4 million PAN that are vesting over 2 years, and those go to Consensus, the company that launched the system, members of the founding team, advisors, people like that. Those vest over 2 years. And then once that 2-year period is up, the only source of token issuance is those tokens that are locked up and exponentially decaying to fund our budget each quarter. Those grants are the only new tokens over time that are being issued, and they're being issued to approach that 100 million supply. So over the long term, you can think of that supply curve as not really the supply curve. It's the maximum supply curve. It's a supply curve that you would get if there were never any donations at all, because the donations go back into the token supply. When you make a donation, you're taking circulating PAN and then putting it back into the, you're locking it back up for it to be released again. So instead of getting to that maximum supply, if there's a constant flow of donations, that's always going to remove from the circulating supply, so you're going to be beneath that maximum supply. So in Bitcoin, people talk a lot about the fee market and how over time this market will develop, and the fees will be the only thing that's funding the security of the network over time when the block rewards are gone. And again, we're patterning this very heavily on Bitcoin. In the Panvala model, what happens is that the multiplier runs out. So right now we're able to match the donations that are coming in, but it's not a perpetual motion machine. We're eventually going to run out of tokens to use to match people's donations. So eventually we get to a point where dollars in equals dollars out, and there's no more matching. And that's why it's so important that when there is matching, the communities that we build up around the system are communities that are worth sustaining even when there's no matching. When it's just dollars in, dollars out, these communities have to be worth being a part of for people to sustain them. So one metric that we track pretty carefully is the multiplier of Panvala's system. And that's what I was talking about before with that 11.2x. It's basically the tokens released over the tokens donated each quarter. So last quarter, that was 11.2x. This quarter, we're on track for about 4.93x. It fluctuates over time, and we're trying to see where that stabilizes. Since it's not a multiplier that's specified by Panvala, it's like that Bitcoin multiplier where the supply curve is fixed, but it's the market that determines that 60x that Bitcoin's matching at. It could be anything. It's the market that determines it. And the same thing with Panvala, we didn't decide to match at 11.2x, we decided the supply curve, and then the market determines what the matching multiplier actually is. So we're trying to see where that stabilizes. Once that stabilizes, we expect it to decay over time. So if you imagine that the stable multiplier was 11.2x, we wouldn't expect it to stay at 11.2x because again, we're going to run out of tokens over time. So the general model that we use has that 11.2x becoming about 3x in 2030, about 1.6x in 2040, and eventually reaching equilibrium at 1x in that same sort of fee market stage for Bitcoin. That's the equilibrium stage for Panvala, where tokens in equals tokens out. It approaches that over time. So where do the matching funds come from? So during this round of Gitcoin grants, there were 116,000 Pan that were contributed by donors to over 100 projects across the ecosystem. So that's the 1x. But we know that those projects are going to receive a total of 1.5 million Pan because the Panvala token holders decided to set that aside. That 1.5 million Pan is 12.8x times those donations. So we know where 1x is coming from. The donors already gave those tokens. Where does the 11.x come from? So 2.4x of that comes from sponsors. Our sponsors basically make contributions to Panvala to support the Ethereum ecosystem. So Unstoppable Domains is a sponsor. They provide basically cross-blockchain domain names, .crypto domain names that you can use for any Ethereum address or any address on a different blockchain, basically to give you a pretty name that you can use instead of an address. You could have Panvala.crypto, you could have Peter.crypto, you can have whatever you want .crypto and use that on multiple blockchains. Another sponsor is Helium. So they have a decentralized Internet of Things network where you can run a hotspot to earn tokens by basically being a node on that decentralized network and provide internet access to different devices like scooters out there on the street that need internet access. Instead of paying Verizon or T-Mobile, you can be accessing a decentralized network to get internet access for those kinds of devices. And then MissX is a sponsor that provides a automated tool for finding security flaws in your smart contracts. If you're a smart contract developer, this should be a standard part of your toolkit. Instead of waiting for the audit to find all these flaws in your smart contracts, they've built an automated tool that can find a ton of the known issues that people commonly code into their smart contracts automatically before you get to that audit phase. So if you pop in the code from the DAO or the code from the Parity and multi-sig wallet, it's going to find those bugs automatically so you don't repeat those same mistakes that we already know can be avoided. So this quarter, those sponsors contributed 281,000 Pan. So that's 2.4 times what the individuals contributed on Gitcoin grants. And then the remaining 9.4x comes from dilution. So this quarter, our token holders were diluted by 1.9 million Pan. And 1.1 million of that Pan is going to be used to match Gitcoin donations. So those holders are largely previous grantees who decided not to sell their tokens to pay their bills, but to hold on to their tokens to be a part of Panvala, to help match these contributions that other people are making, and to vote on what we do on a regular basis. So that's teams like Sigma Prime and Prismatic Labs that are building Ethereum 2.0 clients, teams like Gnosis and Whiteblock, teams like Upala and Runtime Verification. They're previous grant recipients who got tokens and held on to them, and they're being diluted to fund the matching. So that's really what we do here. In this model that Panvala is running, it's holders who are the philanthropists. This model still relies on direct donations from people like our Gitcoin contributors who provided that 1x. The system does not work without them. But the system also does not work without the holders who provided that 9.4x. It's the holders that really provide the momentum for the system that allows us to match contributions at an unusually high rate. The same way that Bitcoin's been doing, when you hold on to Bitcoin, you are a philanthropist. You're the one who's funding the security. When you hold on to Ether, you're the one who's funding the security of the network. And when you hold on to Pan tokens, you're the one who's funding the matching multiplier of the system, so we can match donations from as many communities as we possibly can. But we know that not everybody can hold on to their tokens. Some people have bills to pay. So when you're a grantee, you have a choice. You can sell your tokens to pay your bills, or you can hold on to your tokens to help run Panvala, to have votes in the system, and to be diluted so we can match people's donations. So the two main ways to swap out your tokens is, one, you could use Uniswap. You can just exchange the tokens at whatever price is being offered there, and you can have Ether or DAI to pay your bills. Or if you're not satisfied with the price that's on Uniswap and you want to name your own price, you can place limit orders on the 0x protocol's mesh network using any tool you want. The one that I'm familiar with is the front end that one inch exchange has to place limit orders on the 0x mesh. And then anytime somebody wants to buy at that price, they'll be directed to your order. So you name your price, you wait for people to fill it, or on Uniswap, you just take whatever price that it gives. So if you look at that data over time, we've been live on Uniswap since August of last year, and the price has fluctuated there. If you think about Bitcoin, Bitcoin's pretty liquid at this point. So when the new Bitcoins are issued every 10 minutes, it's not like there's a big swing in the price when new Bitcoins are issued. But at this point, Pan is very early and it's only moderately liquid. So you can see the dates on the calendar when tokens were released. November 1st, there's a dip where some grantees sold tokens to pay their bills. And on January 31st, there's a dip where people sold tokens to pay their bills. We want to see over time where that ends up stabilizing. If it gets more liquid, then it could function more like Bitcoin, where there's not a huge dip just because tokens just got released. People anticipate that, and traders take that into account. But at this point, there isn't an active market of traders that has developed so far. So we're trying to see what happens there. You can see that data on CoinGecko.com. So Panvala is governed by its token holders. These Pan tokens are votes in Panvala. Panvala operates a little bit differently than other on-chain voting systems that you might have seen. It only allows one budget proposal per quarter. Only one of them is going to pass. So in other voting systems, you might see small proposals, and you're basically putting out a proposal and seeing if it gets 50% plus one of the votes to pass. But in Panvala, since only one budget proposal can pass, that restriction is there to force people to form groups off-chain, discuss what they want to do together, and then put that one proposal on-chain. You can still compete. If people don't support that proposal, you can put a separate proposal on-chain, and the one that gets the most votes will win. The losing tokens, proposals will lose the tokens that were staked on them. So there's this incentive there to actually reach consensus with as many token holders as possible before you go out there and put that budget proposal on-chain. So the group that we formed to do that is called the Panvala Caucus. You can think of it as Panvala's version of Ethereum's core devs. So if you think about in Ethereum, when there's a new proposal for a fork, the core devs are recommending what should go into that fork and writing up all that code. But at the end of the day, it's the people running the nodes that decide whether or not to accept or reject the recommendation from Ethereum's core devs. And in Panvala, it's that same sort of model. We recommend a slate of grants to go in that budget proposal, but the token holders can accept or reject that recommendation. And if they challenge it by creating another proposal, that's what initiates a token vote, and the proposal with the most votes wins. If there's no challenge, then the smart contracts assume that consensus has been reached off-chain. So there's no vote needed if there's only one proposal created. The contracts are just going to execute that. But if there's multiple proposals on-chain, then it's a vote. There's a voting window each quarter where votes are made to determine which proposal actually gets executed. So we want you to join the caucus. You have these Pan tokens. We want you to help actually influence the recommendations that are made each quarter. We want you to be a part of that consensus that we're trying to make each quarter. Right now, there's 20 members in the Panvala caucus. We're aiming for 50 members by June 1st. And the only way we're going to hit that 50 members is if you join us. So we want you to be a part of us. Send an email to caucus@panvala.com to get started. Our onboarding process includes a quiz that lets us get an idea of what gaps we need to fill in your Panvala knowledge. And then there's an interview so you can get to know some of the existing members of the Panvala caucus before you get on board. So we really want you in the caucus. Send us an email and come be a part of this thing. Another way to use your tokens is to run your own matching pool. So this past quarter, we ran one big matching pool on Gitcoin, where basically any grants on Gitcoin, donations to those grants would be matched by Panvala. For next quarter, we want to run multiple smaller matching pools. So instead of just every grant on Gitcoin being matched by Panvala, your community would choose which grants to match. So you would be able to create a matching pool for your community, or you could delegate your tokens to a matching pool that's already been created for your community. Basically, the more tokens that are being staked for a particular community, the bigger the matching pool they have available to match tokens, to match donations for different grants. So one kind of matching pool is for sub-communities within Ethereum. There's the Ethereum ecosystem is pretty big at this point, and there are various sub-communities that are forming within. And we think they should all have matching pools of their own, where they could choose which Gitcoin grants they want to match donations for and match those on their own. So whether it's Metacartel, token engineering, whatever community you're a part of, if you want to run a matching pool for your community, we want to talk to you to help make that happen. Another kind of matching pool that we want to run is city-specific matching pools, where it's less about code and more about the people who are really the glue of your local community. The people who are organizing events, the people who are helping new people get on board. We want to reward work that isn't specific to just coding, both so we can recognize those people, but also so we could branch out from just doing Ethereum-related things. We want to grow beyond that to being able to support whatever's at the periphery of the Ethereum ecosystem, and then branch out further from that and further from that. And the way we do that is by starting with these local communities and matching whatever they want to reward locally. So if you're interested in running a matching pool for your city, we want to talk to you and make that happen. That's one way you can use your tokens. So with that, I'd like to open it up to Q&A and answer any questions that people have.
So was this, sorry, I'll just speak up. Was this last Gitcoin grant, was that voted on by the Panvala caucus to do that matching pool?
Yeah, so the Panvala caucus made the recommendation for this quarter to do that matching pool, and then there was no challenge to that. So there wasn't like an on-chain vote where we decided to do this matching pool. We basically just talked as a group of people and said, hey, we should do this matching pool thing. And everybody was like, okay. So that went into our recommendation in the forum, and token holders who might not be in the Panvala caucus had an opportunity to just say, that's good or that's bad. And then we incorporate any feedback from the broader community, and that's what goes into the recommendation on chain. Then there's about 3 or 4 weeks for people to put a competing recommendation, and once that window passed, we knew that those tokens would be available to give to grantees. So we already know for this quarter that there's not going to be a vote because the window for submitting proposals is already closed. So those tokens will be released on May 1st. If there was going to be a vote, the voting window would actually start on Thursday, I believe, but there's not going to be a vote.
And just to follow up on that question, for the specific projects that got some pen, were those voted on, or was that individuals choosing to donate on their pen?
That was individuals choosing to donate their pan. So that was some people who were already involved in Panvala who were gonna contribute on Gitcoin, decided to use pan so they could get that double match. So they made their own independent decisions to fund stuff. And then there were people who weren't involved in Panvala at all, but heard about the double matching campaign. So took the DAI that they were gonna contribute, swapped it out for pan, and donated to whichever projects that they wanted. So we didn't decide who's gonna get this budget. We just wanna match whatever contributions that people themselves wanna make. That's really what this economic model is all about. We think we can just match what people want to fund on their own. And as long as they are not really, like we want to make sure that people aren't spending it on themselves. And that's really the only constraint. As long as they're spending it on their communities or on things that everybody can benefit from, we want to match all of those contributions. And we think we can continue to do that sustainably. So we don't have to decide on our own and restrict what gets funded. We can basically just say, hey, as long as you have tokens to put in a matching pool, we're going to delegate a budget to you and you can choose what gets matched rather than us choosing.
The caucus that you talked about for the May 1st release was the same as panvala.com/poll. Is that it?
Yes, so that poll is what we used in previous quarters to get kind of a sense of what token holders want to fund. That poll is really mostly useful when we are making more centralized grants, basically deciding, hey, this team gets this many tokens and this team gets this many tokens. We wanted to get an idea of what the token holders wanted to support. Since then, we've really shifted to more of a matching model where people go out and make their own donations and we just match that. So rather than, that poll is probably going to evolve from being a poll where you say what should be funded to just being, hey, here are the matching pools. Which matching pool do you want to delegate to? So you won't be deciding, hey, this percentage of the budget should go to Ethereum 2.0. Instead, you'll take your tokens and say, I'm going to delegate to this matching pool that's supporting Ethereum 2.0, and then make donations.
More of a delegated the voting.
Exactly right.
And are you still open to new projects to be granted? Number one. Number two, can the previous projects who are already granted by the Panvala still be able to propose for another grant?
Yes, so we're still interested in applications for new direct grants. We're not sure at this point whether we're going to issue that many more of them because the matching model has just been more successful, and it really gets people to understand what the economics of the system are. When we issue grants directly, it seems more like a decentralized foundation, which it kind of is, but that concept, that metaphor, doesn't convey the economics of the system. Whereas if we go out there and match donations that people are making directly, that's actually what the economics of the system are. We think that we can just match the donations that people are making and do that at a sustainable rate over time. So that's why we were really shifting more to that model. But yeah, we don't have anything against repeat applicants. Really, the main constraint with the direct grants is that we're trying to distribute tokens as widely as possible. When it comes to the matching pools themselves, what they're going to be judged on is what their break-even budget is. So we want them to be distributing tokens in a way that gets people to join the Panvala community and help us provide that matching budget. The matching pools that are a drain on the matching budget are going to have a smaller budget than the matching pools that add to the matching budget.
Can you just repeat that last part again, because it was hard to really follow? So like, are you saying that the matching pools that end up with a lot of hodlers will be more favored than the matching pools that end up with a lot of people who end up selling the tokens?
Exactly that. Yeah, like the system works at any, like even if everybody sells, the system still works. It's just that the system degrades to a multiplier of 1x. And to show people that it can do more than that, we need to focus on the matching pools that are doing higher than that. So even if there's a matching pool that's giving to a lot of grants that are selling, that's not bad. It's just that they're going to have a smaller matching budget.
Okay. And how do you imagine the matching pools being initiated and then being supported? Like, I assume not, like, I can't just be like, hey, I'm going to make a matching pool and then just be like, give me money. You know, I mean, there's got to be a little bit more process around that.
Yeah, so the process is you email the Panvala caucus and then we try to talk through it. Like there's no on-chain mechanism for these matching pools. It's purely a social convention. So if you're interested in running a matching pool, we want to talk to you and set it up and walk you through that process directly. Right now, there's no firm process for it. Literally the announcement of that program was just now. So we want to work with you to determine how that process can work best and what you're looking for so we can help you match donations in your community.
Okay.
I have a question. So the laziest participant in the Panvala network or system is essentially the hodler who doesn't do anything with those tokens if they receive them. Are they in any way detrimental if they just hold on for them forever, or are they actually, like you said, infinitely beneficial through the mechanism of dilution? So let's say, I don't know, a project has received, 10,000 pan. They never cash them out. They never really use them for anything. Maybe they use them in some DeFi products as collateral or something. But as long as they do not put them onto the open market, Panvala benefits. Is that right?
We believe that is true. Basically, any intuition that applies to Bitcoin should apply to Panvala as well. So the same way you think about the Bitcoin culture, people are saying hodl, they get diluted and that funds the network. That applies to Panvala as well. What we want is active participation. We want people to be getting their communities on board. We want to match what's happening in their communities. So it's a lot better if you take your tokens and instead of just holding on to it, we want you to take your tokens and either create a matching pool for your community or delegate your tokens to a matching pool for your community. That's really what we want to see. But if people just hold on to their tokens and do nothing, they're still active participants in a sense because they're allowing themselves to be diluted, and that's what makes the economics of the system work.
All right.
Okay, proceed.
So if I understood right, let's say, for example, I want to create a matching pool for the infrastructure, right? Because I'm really into that. So how do I start?
You start by contacting the Panvala caucus.
The cactus email, okay.
Yes, and basically the process is like we get the number of tokens that you want to basically use for that matching pool, and you would select the grants that you want to match in the next quarter. And your budget for the first quarter will be determined by your share of the matching pool tokens. That is, not everybody is going to use their tokens to create a matching pool. So there's going to be basically a denominator of all the tokens that are in any matching pool and the numerator of the tokens in your matching pool. That's the share of the matching budget that you're going to get for this first quarter. Your budget for the second quarter will be dependent on your break-even budget. And that's the concept that I was talking about, where the pools with more holders are going to get a bigger budget for the next time. The pools with fewer holders are going to get a smaller budget, but that's also not a bad thing. We're just trying to adjust the budgets to where they're sustainable rather than just continuing to have unsustainable budgets. So your first quarter budget is your share of the matching pool tokens, and your second quarter budget would be adjusted based on your break-even budget from that first quarter.
So I still cannot understand the founders of matching pools. Do they need actually to put their own tokens into matching pool to start it, and delegating tokens to this matching pool? Does it mean that you are delegating the right to spend your token to some grantees?
So for the first question, the founders of a matching pool, well, actually for both questions, this is completely a social process. So there's nothing happening on chain. You're just saying to the Panvala caucus, I am using my tokens for this matching pool, and then we just write it down. If your tokens move, then that's like unstaking your tokens. But other than that, there's no restriction on your tokens. When you delegate your tokens to a matching pool, again, completely social. So there's no control over your tokens. You're just saying, in a web interface that we build, I want to delegate my tokens to this pool. You sign a message, and then we know that your token should count for this pool. But it's all social. It's all off-chain.
So what are the what pools can? Does it mean that pools just have more? The bigger pools will have more vote in deciding where the tokens go?
So every pool has complete control over what it wants to match. So what the pools choose are effectively which grants they want to match donations for. So like you would take, if you look at Gitcoin grants, you would basically select some of the grants on Gitcoin Grants and say our matching pool supports these grants. And then any donations that come into those grants are matched from your matching pool.
Okay. It's still hard to wrap my mind over it.
It's good. That's good feedback. It still needs work. So I'm going to put together a deck specifically for that, ideally with more diagrams so people understand how it's working. If I can't get it to a point where people understand it, it might be changing. It's early days for the matching pool concept.
Mm-hmm. Is the percent of inflation that's going to the matching pool system, will that be decided by the caucus basically, or?
Exactly that. So that's what we did for this quarter. We decided that of the 1.9 million tokens, 1.5 million would go to matching. And then for the next quarter, we're going to have to make the same sort of decision.
So the matching pools compete of how much percentage of token released they will get, and then they will match next quarter to the selected grantees.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense.
Cool. So thanks for all the questions. I wanted to give us an opportunity to not just hear me talk, but for us to be able to talk to each other. So if you have 10 more minutes, you can come chat with the rest of the orientation attendees in the Panvala Lounge. And what the Panvala Lounge is basically a spatial audio room where you can walk around and whoever you're nearby is who you hear and who you see. I'm going to drop a link to that in the chat. And if you have 10 more minutes to hang out, we'd love to see you there and just chat with the other attendees and get to know people. So here's the link, and I will see you there. Thanks everybody for coming, and thanks for being part of Panvala.
Thanks, Neon.
Thank you for this.
Thank you for the explanations.